Hey everybody, thank you for joining me today. So, if you saw my earlier small haul video, um, I showed you guys that I had just gotten in some new tools from my little scrapbook store. And so, we're going to play with some of those items today in our Technique Tuesday and just talking about them, especially when something new comes out. I like to play with it and see how it works. But of course, we have Salem, who decided to lay down right when I wanted to start recording. So I had to give him some love taps and then, of course, get him to kind of, yeah, vacate the area. So we got in the new distress tools from Ranger and the new mini ink pads for the distress oxides. So we're going to go ahead and open these out. Now these have been out, the larger tools, but I never had it. I had the Vicki Boutin one, which is similar in texture as far as the brush area, because it's that stiff stencil brush. So I wanted to show you guys that one. And then the new item is the smaller ones right here that I'm desperately trying to break into. These are the mini blending or stencil brushes from Ranger Distress. And I have to tell you, I love the way these feel in my hand better than the Vicki Boutin one, only because it's a little bit heavier and it's a larger tool, right? But so the stencil brush that they have for this size, I like the way it fits in my hand, almost like a pen or a pencil. So it's easier to maneuver. And we'll talk more about that as we go towards the end. I finally figure out how the bristles and stuff work, how to close it. So I was kind of showing you there. So for years, they said we would never get the oxides in minis. And now we have oxides in minis. So hopefully someday they'll say, oh, we have picket fence in oxide. Since they said they could never have picket fence in an oxide. But I digress. So with these brushes, they're very stiff, okay? So if you had like small areas of detail you wanted to put in, this stencil would work well for that. You can see the different size and consider the original size and then the minis. And usually with the regular blending brush, obviously you can get a large area covered. The little stencil brush, it's going to be a smaller area. And it's not really made for being a blending brush. So you could see how you could see the texture of the bristles in the ink that I had there when I held it up. So these are perfect for stencils. They work well with stencils. It allows you to get ink into smaller areas. If you have those very detailed stencils, these work really great for that. Now, obviously, if you have a larger area, using the original distress tool, that works. That's what it's made for too. But look how like crisp that detail is where that small area I did compared to the larger area, right? That one looks a little bit more not flushed out, not just not as intense with color. Because it was a smaller area and I used the stencil brush, more ink got right where I wanted it to go, and it gave a nice clear sharper image. Now I want to show you something else too. I finally found the stencil I was looking for. So the other thing with the stencil brush is you can hit, I'm going to put that away because I decided not to dirty up two of them. I'm just going to use the one. But you can use this because it's smaller in a very controlled area. And I know because of my lights, it's very hard to see on this white, but I'm just putting little bit of blue in some of the areas, not all over, right? So it allows you to be more precise with where you're putting the ink color. So if you were trying to do like, I don't know, blue, green, and yellow, and you wanted to put the colors in specific places, using the stencil brush will allow you to do that because before we had to do this, right? You take your washi tape, you put it around the area that you're trying to protect. You don't want it to go. And then you put your ink down, and when you pull it up, you get this high concentrated ink right where you put it, which is great, but that's a lot of wasted washi tape, right? Whereas with this one, it allows you to be able to get into those smaller areas without having to tape it off. Make sense? Okay. So the next thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to kind of move these over to the side, but just to show you that bigger brush, I think it would work with covering a larger area as far as using it with the stencils. I don't think you should use either one for blending. These are not blending brushes. These are specifically really for stencil work, really and truly. I think you get better quality details with that. I was trying to see if that's what they call this. No, that's the mini distress oxides. Hold on. I was trying to find, yeah, well, they call them blending brushes, but they're really not blending brushes. I'm telling you, these are more like stencil brushes because they're so stiff. The regular distress tool that we've all been using for years, to me, that is the better like blending piece than the hard bristles. And this is where I'm trying to tell you more about how I like to hold it, the brushes, and that this one is a little bit more complicated, whereas with this one for me in my hand, it fits a little bit better. So I kind of like that. Sometimes I like the smaller things because I have smaller hands. So the bigger it is, it's harder for me to grip on and my hand gets tired easily. Whereas with the mini tools, I'm just putting a little blender tool on it so you can see that one with the mini. The Vicki Boutin one doesn't have a mini, but then you have the mini of the Ranger one. So you wouldn't do a large area with the mini for the regular distress tool. It's going to work the same way with the new, what I'm calling the stencil brushes. Okay. So the mini inks, I'm showing you again, look how the size difference. I highly suggest them if you don't have any oxides and you've always wanted to try them out. Collect them in the minis. These are a great space saver. They're great for traveling because they don't take up a lot of space. So if you wanted to go to a crop with them, they work really well. And if you have the regular size stencil or distress tool, the little round pads, the thin ones, fit right inside. And usually I put the color side on the inside so that way that little pad is sticking out and all you have to do is put your tool to it and pull it right out. So I highly suggest those as well. But I like these. I like the minis. I'm glad I got them. I don't think it's a waste. I just think that at times the minis will be easier to handle. And at times it will be more important to have the regular size. Wow, I feel like I'm about to choke. Thank you guys for joining me. Keep a lookout. You know I'm going to have another video using these things so you can see them in full action. And again, I thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I know both videos today were super quick, but I wanted you guys to see these tools and now we get to play. All right, y'all. You have a great day.